Let me ask you a serious question. Are you ghosting the very people who may be able to help you to protect your credit? My, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Hiley, also known as Hiley the Credit Renovator. I run a company where I help people and businesses get their credit together so that they can qualify for mortgages and business funding. I also help folks to optimize income potential through some other trainings. So when money gets tight, some people stop answering the phone. They stop answering the mail. They stop reading the mail. They ignore emails and text messages from the creditors. Sometimes they even stop responding to the credit specialists like me that they hired to help them. I kind of understand why, even though it doesn't make sense. You may feel embarrassed, right? Right? You may not know what to say. You may be afraid that the creditor, your bank, your lender, is going to demand their money right now and they don't care about your problems or your issues. And so you say, what's the point of talking to them? They don't care. They just want their money. But listen to me carefully. Ignoring the problem will not make it disappear. If you want better credit, you have to stop ghosting everybody. So, by ghosting your creditors, that's going to cost you big. If you know you're going to have, but this is how you can do it, how you can prevent that. If you know you're going to have trouble making a payment, whether it's your car, credit card, or whatever, say you got laid off or your hours got cut, you lost out on your bonus or your overtime, you had an unexpected dental bill for one of your kids, they need braces or something like that. It happens, and I understand. But the key is don't wait until the account gets delinquent before you say something to them. The minute you might have an idea that a payment may be late, before it's due, you should reach out to them and call. Because you may have some choices. Like if you've never had any problems paying before, that would be a good time before it becomes late to maybe contact the creditor and ask for a skip a pay or whatever, where they basically just take the interest and throw it on the back and you're allowed to skip a payment. That way you could take that either take that money that you would have paid on that to use on something else. That's usually the case. Or if you don't have the money to pay, you got time to figure it out. I mean, you call them as early as possible and you'll say things like, hey, right now I'm experiencing a hardship. Maybe not use those words, but something similar to that. And then you say, now I'm concerned that I might not be able to make the payment that's due on the 12th or whenever it is. And I might not be able to make a full payment. I may be able to make a partial payment. Do you guys have any options to help me? Because I want to keep my account in good standing. Now, depending on the creditor and depending on which department you're in, a lot of times you'll get more help from what's called loss mitigations or the collections folks, but we don't want to get to that point before we can get some help. And so, depending on the creditor and the type of account that you have, and your circumstances, you basically want to get out the violin and you want to tell them, I really want to, I'm not being difficult, but I'm having this problem and I want some help. So sometimes it may be if you got two bills clashing at the same time or your unexpected expense, you can move your payment due date. Did you know that? Yes, you can contact your lender and ask them, but again, you want to do this before it's late and say, hey, can you guys move my payment? In many cases, they may be able to do it in the same month, but in most cases, they usually say, okay, starting next month. So it may, depending on how much far in advance you ask, that can definitely be a good option for you. But if you wait to the last minute, they're going to say, sure, we can do it, but we can't do it until next month, which may not help you in this situation. You may want to be able to work out a temporary payment plan with them. And again, it's just a matter of asking. Do I have any fancy way of asking? Just no. Just be cooperative with the person on the phone. not have an attitude. And if that person says they're limited in how they can help you, you could simply and nicely request that you could speak to a supervisor or manager or someone. If that person says, I can't help you with that, and you say, well, can you get me to somebody who can? And then that's what you want to do. They may be able to temporarily reduce your required payment. You may be able to make a partial payment. They may throw another fee or something on there, but that's an option you can certainly ask for. You could ask for a short-term extension or a deferment of some kinds. We hear about deferments when talking about student loans. Other loans, they have a deferment status as well, or even a forbearance. So that's not something that's just limited to student loans. Other creditors have such a things too. Not everyone, but this is where you ask. You might want to let them know that you can have that hardship forbearance or deferment program. And so you could do that, or asking them to waive a late fee or reducing certain fees to help you out. Now keep in mind, none of these options are guaranteed. When I tell you to do this, there is no absolute guarantee that they will do any of these, but I can tell you from my experience, and again, it varies with the lender, that they will at least entertain those things. There's a chance. And the only way you're going to know is to have the choice to go ahead and ask. You know the expression, closed mouth don't get fed. But if you ask in a early enough time, and you be nice, you have a really good chance of them helping you out. And even if they do offer you something, don't just accept the agreement if it's one that you can't do. Don't just accept the agreement with no real intention of honoring it. But you want to do, if you do accept it, you do want to ask questions, and agree. Remember, before agreeing to any hardship arrangement, ask one simple question. How will this arrangement be reported on my credit report to each of the credit bureaus? That's a very important question, because the whole point of this is to try to come up with an arrangement that does not lead to a negative impact to your credit and to maintain your relationship with them. But that's an important piece. Because that question is important, because the creditor may agree to any of those suggestions that I had about a course of action to help you not be late. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the account will be reported as current on the credit report. That deferred payment, if they were to put you in deferment, may affect the account differently depending on what their lender agrees to and what they intend to report. So you want to make sure you ask them these questions before you sign and seal on this deal. You ask them straight up, will my account continue to be reported as current? And if they say no, that's something you want to address. And we're going to assume, for sake of this, that they're going to be answering honestly, but we don't know, right? We're dealing with people. Next question. Will interest continue to accumulate on my loan? Most likely it will. But you just want to be sure of what their intentions are. You want to ask them, will I be charged any late fees? Because they may or may not. Sometimes they will. If they skip a payment, it won't be a late fee, but they may say we got the interest on that payment, we're going to tack it on to the back of the balance. But you're concerned about a late fee and a late reporting on credit. You ask them, when does my regular payment resume? Do I get to skip this month and I got to pay next month? Do I get to skip this month and next month and pay the month after that? You want to be clear on that. And then you say, well, like I mentioned, will your skip payments be added on to the end of the loan? That's the most common resolution that happens when you skip a payment. Even if you weren't in worried about anything, they oftentimes, when you're in good standing, especially if you've paid extra to reduce your principal to save on your loan, which is a strategy I always recommend to clients. to shorten the life of loan and save interest. When you've done that, they will offer to skip payments to try to get some of that interest back that you're saving by paying down your loan with principal only payments or paying extra on principal. And then you want to ask them, will this arrangement reduce my credit limit or close my account? Because you want to be sure that although they're making this nice buddy arrangement, that they're not going to cut the legs out from under you, so to speak, on the back end. You want to make sure your account doesn't get closed, or they reduce your credit limit because now they don't trust you or anything like that. But it's always better to be honest with them up front and be straightforward, because they'll be concerned about, okay, is your lost income or income reduction, is it short term or long term? Because they'll worry about what's going to happen. If we help you this month, are you going to be good next month, the month after that, going forward? And of course, always, no matter which of these things they do, you always want to make sure you get that agreement in writing from them. You want to write down the date, the person you're talking to on the phone when you're making these deals, and you want to make sure the number that you called and exactly what you're told. And if you ever get transferred from one representative to another, you want to confirm the phone number that you can reach them at. A lot of people forget about that. They only remember the contact number that they started with. It's important down the line if things get a little bit confusing or muddy. Now, because keep in mind that documentation gives you something to reference if the creditor later reports the arrangement differently from what was promised to that individual on the phone. Now, of course, when you're doing all of this, you should be doing this way before a late payment of any kind. Of course, the initial one will be a 30-day late. So this you want to be doing before it becomes 30-day late, preferably even before the grace period comes about, even before the payment is due. Now, keep in mind that creditors generally do not report an ordinary late payment to the credit bureaus until the account becomes 30 days past due. I can't talk today. It's kind of late when I'm doing this video. But I want to be clear on something. Simply calling the creditor does not automatically stop that late fee or that late payment from being reported. That's why we want to ask those questions, because we want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Calling does create an opportunity to explain your situation and learn what options they may have for you, and possibly reach an agreement like we talked about. But it's important that you must confirm exactly what the creditor requires to keep your account from being reported late. If they say you got to do a certain amount on a certain day, or if you agree to this and agree with that, make sure that it's clear so that when you get off the phone, your situation is dealt with and there's an understanding between what the creditor promises and what you're expecting. Because even if the account has not reached the 30-day reporting threshold, paying the account after the due date could still result in a late fee, because again, if it's after the grace period and after the end of the calendar month, you're definitely going to get hit with a late fee, and then you'd have to try to ask for them to give you a good a customer courtesy deletion of that late. But if you do it the right way, you can avoid any of those things and have it all worked out. Because in addition to the fees, there might be penalties, there might be interest, it could be any kind of collection calls that might come, and you're like, why are they calling me? I already made out an agreement. So you want to be sure that those things won't happen, because they shouldn't be calling you for collection, trying to get the money if you've already worked out a deal where you won't be paying it, or you'll be skipping it that month or whatever. And then of course, once they trigger that and they put you in that category, you might lose out on any benefits or perks that came along with that account, say if it's a credit card. And so you don't want to lose out on any points, perks, benefits, or anything like that by being pushed into a delinquent status when you already worked out a deal in advance. So make sure that you can avoid any other consequences. And the whole idea here is to keep your credit clean, keep all your benefits that go with that card. Now, if prior to this situation you have had a good payment history, and this right here is like an isolated event, ask the creditor whether they will provide a one-time courtesy, like I mentioned before, of any penalties or late fees. That way you don't even have to worry about that. I mean, you got to kind of finesse it, but you could say something to the effect of, I've had a good payment history and this is an unusual situation for me. And that's why I'm trying to work it out right now. Would you be willing to provide a one-time courtesy to waive the late fee? Now, if the late fee has already been reported, you may also ask for that one-time courtesy to remove it. We call that a goodwill adjustment to your credit report. Now, keep in mind, the creditor is not required to remove accurate information from your credit report, provided that it's within compliance standards and all of those types of things. And keep in mind, you should never, ever, ever assume that making the phone call will guarantee removal, will guarantee any of these things. These are efforts that you want to take for your benefit. They're worth it because the negative information that could potentially go on your credit report, it's worth the effort to do this if it avoids that and keep your credit tight. And you should be doing this on the first day you realize you may have an issue paying it. That's why you don't want to wait beyond today and wait another 29 before you decide to do something. So think of the period before the account becomes 30 days past due as a large opportunity for you to communicate to the creditor and bring your account current or keep it in current, not permission to ignore the problem, because you never want to ignore the problem. This is where we tackle it. Again, we don't want to ghost them because they are our partners. They were our partners when they gave us our credit line or our loan and our cash, to whether it was to buy a car, whether it was to buy a house, whether it was a credit card, revolving credit, the credit line associated with the credit card. So continue. They were our partners when we asked for these things. Let's continue to honor and respect the partnership by giving them a chance to help us out when we need help, rather than, because if you don't tell them, they don't know, and you can't be mad at anybody for not helping you when you didn't ask for help. So if you missed the due date, contact the creditor immediately and ask them, what is the exact amount needed for me to bring my account current? And let them explain and tell you what they can do. You want to ask them, what is the deadline for me to prevent a 30-day late payment being recorded on my credit? And you want to try whatever you can. Hopefully it's more approachable or accessible to them making the payment that you're struggling with to pay in this particular situation. You want to ask them, are there any hardship options available? You want to ask them, can the late fee be waived as a one-time courtesy, like I said before? And you want to ask them, how will any payment arrangements be reported to the credit report, just like I said before. So that's just a recap on that. Because keep in mind, once you become 30, 60, 90 days late, the damage to your credit becomes increasingly serious, and the chances of getting anything like that reversed is very difficult, and it can be expensive because you'd have to pay me to get that done. Now, keep in mind also that by calling early, that it will give you more options. So not just better options, but more options. But remember, the best thing to do is make the payment. If you got to juggle, that's always an option. But if simply you find that you can't, if you can't juggle it and work it out in advance, don't wait till the last minute to ask them for help, because it's always better to help them first. So that's on that. Secondly, stop ghosting your credit specialist. You've gone through the trouble of finding somebody to help you fix your credit. You've paid them money, or you're paying them money to help them fix your credit. I'm sure if they are a reputable credit specialist, they told you that we need to keep in constant touch. We need to, when you get mail, we need that correspondence. We need to let you know, not just a 30-day status check when you look at your credit and to see if the score went up or down. That's a different kind of ghosting. So if you're working with somebody like me, don't disappear from the process. I get clients all the time where they pay me and they think they just pay me and then they go sit by the sidelines and they're waiting for me to do all the work. But understand, in most credit repair processes, we're sending out everything, and all the work we're doing is in your name on your behalf. So when the creditors or the credit bureaus send answers, send response, or we file complaints for you, you're going to get that mail, and it's your responsibility, if you want us to do this in a timely manner and get the most bang for your buck, is to open your mail every day and then call us and say, hey, I got mail, or upload it into the portal. If you usually have access, I know with my clients, they have access to their account in the portal where they can drop documents off, they can leave notes, they can ask for things so that we can keep the credit repair processing, because the timing of it is very important and adds to the effectiveness. When you bog things down, things don't get done and you lose progress, because the timing is very important. That 35-day cycle that we work on is important, because each time we're working on your credit, the attacks, the efforts that we do this month, next month are going to be based on what we did this month, and the timing is very important. Because remember that we, your credit specialists, whether it's me or not, cannot effectively guide you if you stop answering messages, if you fail to provide the documents that I talked about that come in the mail, or forward emails, or let us know about any phone calls. Because we want to help you make these major decisions to help you with your credit. We can't make the decisions for you if we don't know what the creditor or the credit bureau said in an answer when we request an investigation. It's hard for us to know exactly what we have a plan on what we're going to do next, but we want the details so we can better answer based on that rather than based on what we think they're going to say next. If you receive a letter from a creditor, from a debt collector, or credit bureau, send it to your specialist as fast as you can get it. Don't save it to the end of the week and say, oh, I'll just send everything at once, because timing is everything. Keep in mind, especially when it's coming in the mail, we're already dealing with 7 days in the mail and whatever date the document, and then there may be crucial dates that may need you to take action or us to take action on your behalf. And the timing of it is important. For example, I had a young lady that she didn't open her mail for weeks. And then I hadn't heard from her, and I got with her and I said, hey, open your mail, it's important. And come to find out, she had a court date on, because one of her creditors sued her, took her to court. She had a summons to report in court, but because she didn't open it, she didn't show up for report, they automatically granted the judgment in favor of the creditor. And then here's the worst part. The creditor automatically on that day when in court, when you didn't show up and they got the judgment, they immediately handed the judge an order for garnishment. And the next thing you know, she's getting $300 every 2 weeks garnished from her check unexpectedly on a debt because she didn't open her mail and respond to it. Because had she opened it, I would have told her, go to court, tell them you're working on it, you requested investigation along those lines, and she could have defended herself. And at best, she could have got a continuance to get more information. But at worst, they would have said, okay, no, but at least you wouldn't have got the garnishment, because you could have said, hey, I'll make payment arrangements, and it would have been something a little bit more easier to more sustainable than a $300 every 2 week garnishment. She wasn't happy with that at all. So it's important that you open that mail. If you're working on your credit yourself, it's important you open that mail so you'll know what to do next. I have a software platform that can help you do all of that. But then you got to, between the updated credit report and whatever you receive, we can guide you on what the next steps is, what to do, or what not to do. Okay. If your income changes, you want to say something. You want to let the creditor know. You want to let your credit specialist know if that's going to affect you, any repayments you have, if it's going to affect you paying him or her for the next month of credit service. If you're paying on a monthly basis, you want to let them know. Don't keep it a secret. Keep it a surprise. I know credit is income is one of those things we've been taught to keep it private, and you should. There's nothing wrong with being private, but when someone is in your, involvement and it has an impact on that, you don't have to get to specific. You just got to let them know it's a budget issue going on. And so they may be able to be flexible with you with the monthly payment arrangements you made them, just like any other. They're technically not a creditor, but it's sort of a creditor situation because you're paying them on an ongoing basis for a service that they're providing for you. So be honest about it. I've had many clients who said, hey, my money got funny. A lot of it was related to the credit debt spiral, the car financing debt spiral that I talked about in previous video, because that can cause havoc with your budget, right? I get that. If you're about to miss a payment, let your credit specialist know as well. I know I appreciate that because, again, I'm here to help you. And if you give me all the information, I can come up with a strategy, and I would have very well told you everything that I'm telling you guys right now in this video as part of a client consult. Now, if you're considering applying for any new credit for any reason, if you're thinking about find yourself where you got to finance a new car, if you're thinking about closing an account, if you're thinking about settling any of your debts while we're in the middle of the credit repair process, let us know so we could tell you whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. If you're considering co-signing from somebody, I'm definitely going to tell you. I know I'm definitely going to tell you don't do it if you don't have to. I just see so much downside versus the upside to co-signing from somebody. I know we want to help our loved ones, but co-signing almost never helps. All it usually does is end up with two people with challenged credit instead of one. Talk to your specialist, ask them, and I know I can explain to you in general why co-sign is a bad idea. I could tell you, I would speak to you directly about your current situation. And again, it's nothing personal against the person you want to help. It's just there are certain things that in these situations that I see every time. Believe me, I've had friends of mine say, oh man, how dare you say that? You know my daughter, she's a good kid and all of those things. And then a year later, they're like, I can't believe she did that. Because remember, people are always going to think about themselves first. And I say, as I always do, if someone needs a co-signer, there's usually a good reason why. So just keep that in mind. But let your specialist know if that's what you're thinking about doing, so at least it's part of the conversation. And keep in mind, if you receive in the mail the results of any investigations we may ask for from TransUnion, Experian, Equifax, or even one of your creditors, don't leave it unopened on the kitchen table or the coffee table. Don't leave it opened without sending it so that we can address it and we can get on it and help you get to where you want to go. Because we're going to get to the next step. That's how you get your 80 points around and things like that. I don't like to quote, but that's how you get constant movement. Now, credit repair is not a smooth process. You're not guaranteed X amount of points every month, but it does tend to work that way as a progression if you're timely with the correspondence, with the mail, with the answers, so we can jump on it and move right to the next step. Because we don't always wait 30 days for our actions. Sometimes we do things in 15-day cycles, even though we're working on things, even though we're not going to see the credit cycle update for 30 days. But just get it to us. Believe me, we're doing it for your best interest. Those deadlines that are on those letters, they matter. Because some of those letters require a response in a timely way. Like I told you with client with the court summons. Some of those documents contain information that could change our strategy, or if you're working on your own credit, change your strategy on how you want to get that thing fixed. Sometimes they're counter offers. Sometimes there's deep discount settlements. Sometimes those are in there, and we don't want to keep fighting to get something removed when we can settle it. That's always a possibility. So keep in mind, those letters, that correspondence, they need responding. They need feedback, and we want to get that as fast as possible. Me, as your credit specialist, expert, we need accurate, timely information. I need timely information to help you make the best decision that you can make for the next step. Because credit improvement is not something that you simply is done to you. It's the effort. It's what the actions we take at the right time and the right actions based on the right questions and answers that'll get you the best result. Again, whether you're doing it yourself or whether I'm working with you, I need that information to do it for you. Because remember, that's something we build together. It's not just me done for you or done with you with my software platform. But remember, we're done with you. We're doing it together. Even though you're paying me, I'm doing all the legwork and the deep dive and stuff. We're still doing this together, because not only do you have to manage your current accounts in the way we talked about earlier, but we also got to go through these things too as well, and we're working together. And then this next thing I'm talking about doesn't apply to me, because it would never apply to me. But if you're seeing this video and you're working with someone else, don't let your credit specialist ghost you, because I hear that a lot from people who have either worked with somebody else or they come to me for the first time, or maybe they've worked with someone in the past, and they spoke a lot about never hearing from the credit specialist. They only heard from them when they sold them, and they only hear from them when it's time for another payment. But I'm going to make this very clear. Just as you should not ghost your credit specialist or your creditors, don't allow them to ghost you. Call, whatever. And if you got a credit specialist that has a phone number you can't reach, I'm going to say, I don't know if I would want to work with somebody that I can't call. I mean, if you were dating, would you date someone that you can never call? They can only call you? I don't know. That's a red flag, I think, in some people's minds. But all I know is this. If you're paying someone to help you, you should not have to chase them down every month just to find out what's going on with your file. Me, my team, our process is transparent. And then, like I told you, all of your correspondence come to you, so you know what they said before we do. We send updates. I send an action plan on every month. When the credit refreshes and we got new things, the action plan changes. So you know what you need to do. You know what we're going to do. So you don't have to chase me down to find out anything. My clients can reach me for the most part just about any time. Obviously, if they reach out to me unscheduled, I may be with another client, or I may be working on something. I may not be available, but I usually respond to phone calls within the same business day, unless it's late at night or something like that. Keep in mind that your credit specialist should be communicating with you on a regular basis like that. They should be able to answer any reasonable question that you ask pertaining to credit. They should be able to transparently explain the process to you. Now, I don't like to get into the whole thing of how the sausage is made and bore people with those things. But I do like to, if folks want a little more detail, I'm more than happy to, because I have nothing to hide. But just remember, they should be able to provide you with meaningful updates and tell you exactly the actions that you need to take. Now, this way I look at it is, my clients, you deserve to know what work is being performed, what stage of the process that you're in, what responses have been received. But again, the responses come to you anyway. you should be able to know what documents are still needed. And if you've already provided it, you say, why you're still asking for that. If they say, why do I need that? That's an unusual request. They should be able to tell you why, what's the action and strategy and the reasoning behind it. And you should be able to ask them, what actions should you take next? Like when I remind my clients about managing credit utilization on revolving accounts, like credit cards and lines of credit, I told them keep those balances down to 30%. Tell them to shoot for 20. If they want to pay it off, that's fine too. But the idea is to maintain all their revolving accounts to be at or below, or actually below 30% of the available, not available, but total credit limit on that account, because they get dinged for that. So you want to have proper utilization so that it helps with your credit score. And so if I gave them a schedule of paying off those debts, they should be following that schedule to get that effectively handled. And because the current debt information has way more weight than those past debts, even though it's important to get those off. But if your current stuff is not in order, it's going to offset anything we do over here when we're removing negative debt. Because as long as you got new negative stuff coming in, it's going to outweigh that every time. Now, keep in mind, if you got a credit specialist who never returns your calls, never explains what's happening, and only contacts you when it's time to collect another payment, for me, that's a problem. And it should be a problem for you too. Now, if you were my client, like I said before, communication, it wouldn't happen to you. It would not be the problem. You just wouldn't see that with me. Because at Credit Renovators, communication is part of the process. As my client, you're going to receive guidance, support, progress, information, and clear instructions about what to do. Now, I don't expect you to do your part while I disappear and leave you wondering what's going on. Am I doing my part? Credit improvement is a partnership. I say that many, many times. Those of you who hear me say that, they're probably sick of hearing it, right? But of course, as my client, you appreciate the mindset behind that, the mission behind that. Now, with me, you can communicate with me. I communicate with you. You complete your responsibilities, and then I remain accountable for mine. That's what I mean when I say better credit, period. Let's build it together. And again, that applies to my DIY or done DWY software platform, where you will do all the heavy lifting as far as uploading your credit report, creating your letter. Well, not creating the letters, because the system will create the letters for you. We use AI in that system. It'll write all your letters for you. It doesn't do a cookie cutter. It reads your credit report. It reads the account situation, and it writes a letter specifically for TransUnion, for Experian, for Equifax. All you have to do, if you want to do it yourself, you would print that out and print those out, put them in envelopes and mail it, get posted and mail it off. However, in that software system, we also have an additional service where we can do the print the letters for you and mail them off. And there's an additional fee on top of the monthly subscription. But it's only like $2 a letter, to be honest with you. It's not huge. And so that'll turn your DIY credit experience into a DWY, with me and my team supporting you on the back end. You're doing all the heavy lifting. And with a lot of my free content and free supplements, you will be able to have the guidance without me doing credit repair for you, but you'll have guidance. And you'll be able to do that if you love working on your credit yourself, but you won't be doing it by yourself. You'll be doing it for yourself, along with guidance from me. There'll be a link for that in there if you're interested in that. But having just this is an important thing. And lastly, because I've been going on for 40 minutes now, don't be embarrassed. Be proactive. Having financial problems like these does not make you irresponsible. It does not make you a bad person. People lose their jobs. People's hours get cut. Cars break down. Medical emergencies happen. Unexpected expenses happen. Businesses have slow months if you're self-employed. Families have unexpected expenses and crisis. The mistake is not experiencing difficulty. The mistake is allowing shame or fear or embarrassment to stop you from taking action. You don't need the perfect words to ask and negotiate with these folks. You just need to start the conversation. Try this. Say something like, I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty making my payment, but I want to address the situation before it gets worse. Can you explain all your options to me? Can you explain to me any available options that I may have? That one conversation could help you identify an option you didn't even know existed. You didn't even know they had a hardship program. You didn't even know that they had that, because they're not going to advertise that because they want you to make your payment. But when you're coming to them this way, that it opens up a lot of doors for you. So, this is a plan to stop ghosting. This is a stop ghosting action plan. And I'm going to provide a PDF copy of this that you could have if you feel like you want to have this, or share it with someone else who may say, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what to do. And this is a guide for them. You can share this. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. I'm giving that to you guys if it helps. So here's what I want you to do today. Number one, open every financial letter, email, text message that you have been avoiding. You see it on the table, you see it on the coffee table, whatever. Open it up. Just open it up. Don't be scared. Open it up and see what it says. Number two, make a list of every payment you got due for the next 30 days. This is all part of a general budgeting and accountability thing. Because what I always did, my stuff is pretty more automated now. But what I used to do in the past is I always listed my bills chronologically from the first of the month to the end of the month by due date. And then I used to, when I was working in corporate and then I was getting paid like every 2 weeks, or later on when I got into mortgage, we would get paid twice a month. I made sure that I had bills that were due when I was getting paid on the 15th and the 30th of the month. Everything that was due between the 1st and the 15th got paid with last month's check. Everything that's due from the 15th to 30th got paid with that check on the 15th. But if you're bi-weekly, same thing. You want to align your payments. And like I told you before, even without a crisis situation, if you find that sometimes, like typically rent or mortgage is at the beginning of the month, and you don't want to have your rent and your mortgage due at the same time as your car. So you could contact your car lender and say, hey, and have your car payment move to the next pay period so they don't bump into each other in the same pay, and you end up having to shell out two big payments in the same pay period. So that's something, and it's usually you call them and just ask you, they'll ask you when you want the date moved, but they may need a month, so you want to do that knowing that it'll probably kick in the following month, depending on where in the month your current payment lies. But if it's lying at the beginning, they probably won't be able to do it right away, so you'll be set up for next month, but it's a good idea. After you make that list, identify any of your payments that might be a struggle by the time it's due. And that's when you want to put into effect everything, or put into action what we've been talking about so far. Number 4, you want to contact the creditor before the account becomes more delinquent, just like we talked about. Number 5, you want to ask about hardship options. You want to ask about how each option will be reported on credit. Number 6, you want to ask whether you qualify for a one-time courtesy waiver. Number 7, you want to get everything in writing. Number 8, you want to send all relevant documents and updates to your credit specialist. And then most importantly, do not promise a payment that you know you can't make. Be honest about what you can really realistically afford under the circumstances, because you don't want to make a payment arrangement and then don't honor it. That definitely will lead you to collections. So keep in mind, better credit requires more than sending just disputes. It requires communication, it requires documentation, it requires organization, and it requires consistent action. So if you want better credit, stop ghosting your creditors. Stop ghosting your credit specialists. Stop ghosting yourself. Don't allow your credit specialist to ghost you. And stop ghosting your financial responsibilities. Answer the phone. Open the letter. Read the email. Ask the questions. Make the plan. The conversation that you're afraid to have today may help you avoid a much bigger problem and a much worse conversation tomorrow. Now, I'm Hiley the Credit Renovator. I hope you guys appreciate this. I meant to ask you earlier. I should have asked you earlier, in case for those who didn't stick for the whole video. If you like this, if you haven't currently subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so YouTube will help me put this information out to more people. Doesn't cost anything to subscribe. If you subscribe, please share this video and share my channel with those folks out there that you know that could benefit from this. I would really appreciate that. If you have any comments, put no ghosting in the comments below. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me through the links in the channel. And I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. But remember, ignoring the problem just gives it room to grow. And we know we don't want no big credit problems. Addressing it gives you an opportunity to take back control before it gets worse. See you guys in the next video.